So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the big farmers' protests that happened a few days ago. Farmers protesting about Brexit. We have seen European-wide protests around kind of a lack of support that the farmers feel like they've been having. So that's important. But I think in Britain, the farmers have probably got it a lot worse in some ways, considering they've lost their main export market, which was the EU, and also the subsidies that they received.
Amelia Harper, she's in central London now with that convoy behind her. Has it caused a lot of disruption, Amelia?
A huge amount, Jonathan. This is exceptionally busy. This is unprecedented to see this in the middle of London. We've got a tractor convoy behind us, in excess of 120 tractors descending on central London with British farmers at the helm. They say they're here to save British farming and food. It's been put on by campaign group Save British Farming, and they say their industry is under threat. And
it's a bit ironic that there's the anti-protest bills out and none of these farmers were arrested for causing disruption, but we move.
Government isn't listening. You can see here one huge red tractor just coming past us with the British flag on the back, and they are making their way. I'm going to walk into shot here. They are making their way along to past the Houses of Parliament, and then they are going around the square here and up to Trafalgar and then back again. And they want really to get the government's attention. And
I think they've got to do what the French do and just cause massive stink, like literally a massive stink. I think the Czech farmers did that as well before I went to on holiday there. Just start, like when the French start dropping milk and whatever everywhere, like that's what we need to see. A lot more of like a dirtier protest, I think, because no one's going to take this stuff seriously.
They say there are three main issues. The first one is with substandard imports, and they blame Brexit. They say
with the substandard imports, like all imports have to be according to British standards. So I don't know why they keep arguing about substandard substandards when it comes to imports, because if that's the case, that things are getting in below British rules, then we really need to be looking at our import checks, which are not doing great as is.
That trade deals are allowing substandard imports into the...
Oh wait, that's true actually. Yeah, I think the Australia deal does actually allow those kind of imports to come into the country, like bad animal, poor animal rights and things like that. I'm not sure if we're going to be importing hormone beef. It's very possible.
UK that don't necessarily pass British welfare standards. If we come around here, they've even brought...
Yeah, it's the welfare standards that are really bad. Like Australia has much lower welfare standards than the UK, and we're going to be importing a lot more of that, especially as the quotas go down.
Trailers, that is here we go, Save UK Food Security. They've got a British flag here. Fairness for farmers on the front of another tractor.
You don't want to be in a situation where your food security is down the toilet. Like Australia's very far away. Getting food from there is not going to be the most reliable, especially with all of the stuff now we're seeing with supply chain crises. We are seeing lots. If we're relying on the food coming via the Suez Canal, which we are, where the Australian meat would be coming from, that region of the world is very, very unstable right now. And as climate change hits, Australian wildfires are pretty ruthless. Do we want to be reliant on Australia for our food security? No, we don't. British farmer Colin says each day we get another regulation from this Conservative government. We're competing against food being imported from abroad, which is using chemicals which we can't use in this country. So this would probably be about hormones. I fear for people's food security in our country. We need to grow food in the UK. People say we can import food from South America. Post-Brexit politicians have wrecked it for us. We can produce most of the food that UK residents need to eat. Flour, meat, vegetables is not really true unless you're talking about the bare necessities, like going back to more seasonal food. Britain's been a net importer of food for decades now, I think a century, maybe or more. So that's simply not true. He goes, we have a Conservative government that are determined that we import our food from third world countries. Again, it's a bit of a slur. It's not a term you'd really use now. It would be the global south. But even then, we're still importing a lot of food from the EU as well. Like what these guys are determined to do, it seems to be, is just to get rid of British farming as a whole and just import from abroad. He goes on to say, each day we're given another set of regulations by the Brexit Conservative government. We got more people in office doing paperwork than actually growing food now. This bit is telling. because there haven't been a ton more regulations, as far as I'm aware, for food production. But the fact they say we've got more people in the office doing paperwork than growing food is telling of export paperwork. I think that's what he's talking about here, but it's not the clearest. And obviously it's a longer clip, but the audio is not great. Is Nigel Farage is on the case though.
Farmers. So my understanding is these are mostly Kent farmers, and there are lots of different issues here. There's cheap imports that worry them. There's late payments from the British government for the new agricultural scheme.
Yeah, the background noise is pretty obnoxious, but he's talking about the worries around imports, where these people, especially Jacob Rees-Mogg, was talking about importing more food and things like that from abroad, which is much cheaper.
There's a feeling that the countryside isn't really being supported. I think there's a whole mass of reasons. And what I'd like to know is, are there just one or two clearly defined issues? It's important to remember that leaving the common agricultural policy means we can't blame the European Commission anymore. It's totally in our hands. So
Yep, and they've botched it, because these Conservative governments don't believe in subsidies. The idea that the Conservative governments would replace the subsidies that these farmers had lost was probably one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life. Genuinely bafflement at what these people were saying. Why they thought that at the time, I don't know. But thanks to people like Nigel Farage saying, "Oh, I wonder what the key problems are." It's very obvious. They are worried about the trade deals that are going to bring in more imported beef and lamb that they're going to have to compete with. They are worried about the lower standards that they're going to be facing up against. If it's cheaper for us to import Australian beef than it is for us to produce beef locally, that is a terrifying situation for them, especially when they're going to do really weird stuff around rules of origin, guaranteed it, especially in processed foods. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. I wonder who could have caused this mess. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.